Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay from Team Echo Gaming, this time featuring in our top right-hand side Vega Starbuck. Our red Zerg, he is in very high masters, very high masters, like to the point where he'd probably be grandmasters if there were less grandmasters out there. And speaking of grandmasters, we've got in our bottom left Echo's Strinter, our blue protoss. He is in grandmasters, and this has got to be a ladder match. I mean, it's red versus blue. I actually honestly know of Starbuck. I've heard of him before. I've seen a game he was in or something like that. He's very familiar to me, but I honestly can't place where I've heard of him before, which is bothering me, but that's okay. I know it's going to be a great game because, you know, you're in Grandmasters or very high masters, so that's high skill level there. This is a good map, and it's a great matchup. Protoss versus Zerg, always good times to be had there. Starbucks is moving out very early with his very early drone scout. Is just going to be seeing exactly what's going on in Strinter's main base. That's a good call because Star Station is so incredibly huge that the rush distance makes it so that those overlords are alive very late, usually in time to get picked off by that first stalker, which is a definite issue. And Starbuck is not going to be relying on those overlords, not going to be relying on them at all. He's going to get in there with his drone just to see any early gas timing, any gateways being thrown down. He's got a lot of longevity. Got to be careful if that drone doesn't want to get it surrounded by those probes, but once you get to the high masters and grandmasters level, you really do know the tricks to keep them alive, keeping them away from the surroundable areas and shying away from the mineral line is how I do it. But you can be ballsy like this and poke in there just fine. Two assimilators being thrown down by Strinter at the same time. A hatchery gets thrown down by Starbuck, both of which are very cool. Hatch first coming out from the Zerg. We don't see a spawning pool just yet, but he's almost accumulated enough money for that. Keep an eye out on the production tab for it to go down. We can see a weird thing for the assimilators is that he's got this one fully stocked with probes and only this one with two. Probably a misclick. I can't imagine it being purposeful, but once you get up to like Grandmasters level, you might have a timing on gas that is this specific, just to the point where you know exactly how much gas you need, and if you have just one more probe not on a gas geyser, getting some minerals instead, then you can afford a couple seconds earlier for a probe, or maybe you don't get supply blocked, something like that. I've seen it done. Stranger things have happened. Now he's gone down to the more traditional 2-2, which makes a lot more sense to me. It's just diminishing returns once you add that third one in there, and unless you're really going to be using that gas, it's much better to have the extra minerals like that. Also, you can see that Starbucks being very rambunctious by locking down that mineral field, making it so that nothing can mine from there. But as the Zealot arrives and we see a sentries being produced, that drone is not long for the world. It looks like he's actually going to be beating feet, poking down to see if there is indeed a natural being thrown on. Speaking of natural, I'm so sorry, Starbuck. I was completely ignoring you. That's so rude to me. This is weird. A hatchery being thrown down as a macro hatch just as the spawning pool finishes, so a very much delayed spawning pool. A really weird positioning for a macro hatchery. I like the positioning. It's basically denying like a run by. It signifies to me that this is probably going to be some sort of all-in play. We don't have any gas timing at all, which means that the speed's going to be very much delayed. It's possible that it's probably not going to be a baneling all-in because of that, because that speed is really one of the major limiting factors. We would have already seen the geysers going down. We would have already seen the gas accumulation happening. So the only other thing on the table would be a roach all-in. It could be that he's just going to be playing greedy and is going to be using that extra hatchery to mass produce drones, but really only on two hatcheries you can usually fully saturate within a very reasonable period of time. To get a third macro hatch like that, you really need to justify that expense, and I think the justification is going to be some sort of all-in. Two geysers being thrown down. Remember, the main has not been tapped at all, and again, that speed hasn't been started, so we'll have to keep an eye out on that gas income. The economic tab will show you 29/25, 30 harvesters, and we see 3 more on the production tab. So Starbucks definitely going to be railing ahead of the economy, at least until this Nexus finishes and starts to get saturated. But expect to see a third being thrown down in a relatively short amount of time. Phoenix poking out, 2 Zerglings poking in, but it looks like neither of them are going to survive. Oh no, this guy survives. That's good for you, Zergling. Good for you. Poking up to the third. You have earned your keep today. Phoenix poking in, making his presence known by hitting the Overlord. Is going to come in, seeing the spawning pool wiggling, seeing that no geysers have been tapped. It's very telling. Very telling indeed. Oh, this is even more telling. 2 Evo chambers being thrown on. He's got plenty of time before any sort of timing attack hits. He's going to know that in order to throw down and justify the cost of those Evo chambers, you need to get 2 upgrades from it. I love the play from Starbuck getting that Roach Warren up as soon as the Phoenix leaves. The Phoenix has expired over here, meaning that he won't be able to swing back in. Another Phoenix being produced, but that's from the Stargate. Awesome scouting from Starbuck coming in, just seeing that the Stargate is being produced. Really, really great play there. However, this is going to be awesome, especially if we see an Oracle being produced out of that Stargate. That could be great. Phoenix play is also very great because the map is so absolutely massive. The Overlords are going to be in a lot of trouble from those Phoenixes. And then as a third is going down for Starbuck, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Strinter to poke in there and actually start doing damage to the plethora of mineral fields. Not a lot of static defenses. The Queens are going to be spread thin trying to defend against those Phoenixes. So I really like this play. Stargate opening is a very, very fun time, especially with that natural being secured in such a clean fashion by Strinter. He's really going to be feeling very, very good about himself. However, the Roach Warren has been completed. We already see a couple of roaches out on the field, 5 more on the production tab, +1/+1 being started, but the +1 melee and not the +1 ranged, which is really, really weird because that's not going to be helping with this roach push at all. However, it will be helping later on if we ever see an Ultralisk push come in, and that is in keeping with what Starbuck has been doing. He's producing that third. He's macroing behind this. He's not going to be doing like a full-on all-in. This is more of a, let me see how much economic damage I can do for the smallest amount of price. 18 Zerglings also being produced. It looks like these roaches are moving out a little bit premature. He's probably going to have to wait a couple of seconds for that +1 armor to finish before those roaches actually start poking at the front door. Actually, maybe this time, he probably knows his timing better than me. This time is going to be pretty much picture perfect as long as he waits just a handful of seconds. Speed has also been completed unless I am mistaken, so the Zerglings are going to be able to join in with this push as those roaches begin to accumulate off the side. He's got another 20 seconds before that speed is that armor is done. He's poking in. Force field. Got to be careful with the photon cannon photon overcharge on the Nexus, but again, this whole engagement is taking place while that armor is not done, just now finishing, but the majority of the roaches have already gone down. I would have loved to see him poke in, draw the overcharge on the Nexus, and then just retreat, and then once he had that +1/+1, then push in. Maybe use that time to produce some Banelings, but as things are now, some excellent force fields from Strinter, making it so that none of those Zerglings could push in, and that is really just because he got that gas super, super early and mass-produced the sentries. He had just enough sentries to throw down. I don't think any of those have enough energy to throw down any more force fields from that. Perfect timing from Strinter to have up those sentries, have just enough energy to throw down the force fields necessary to hold back this tide of Zerglings. That was a great play out of him, and the fact that it required such an excellent play from Strinter really speaks to the strength of the build from Starbuck. This is going to be pretty bad, though. Those Zerglings pushing in, and remember, the majority of those sentries do not have any more energy to throw down a force field. Nice positioning, good discipline from Strinter to keep that Stalker positioned there to deny the run by, and Starbucks really doesn't want to try for the surround just because he's got plenty of Void Rays in the air. It's really going to be targeting down. I like how Starbuck has stopped producing his roaches completely because those Void Rays are now out on the field. He knows that they're just going to get cut to pieces if he starts producing them more. I think we can expect to see a Hydralisk Den in a relatively short period of time, or it could be a Spire. Could be. I was about to say that. You got to give me time. Yeah, Spire's great too. You get some Corruptors out there, and those Corruptors are going to make mincemeat out of the Phoenixes, and also really will help with the robotics facility and the inevitable Colossus that we're going to be seeing in a very short period of time. We already see one on the production tab. Third is being secured by Strinter, and that's just because of the commanding engagement that he took. Check out the resources lost. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Oh, that is so brutal. Look at those resources lost. I don't even need to tell you what those numbers mean. That is so bad. Starbuck knows that he really got handed to him on that first engagement, so he's taking a sneaky fourth in the bottom right-hand side. Remember, with that macro hatchery up, he's got really just a banging economy. He's got so much money that he can afford to just waste on engagements like that. However, he can't afford to sit back and take a very passive stance, and so this is what he's doing. He's wasting a lot of money, investing a lot of money on economy, on infrastructure, on things that aren't actively defending himself. He doesn't have a huge standing army right now because he knows that the unit composition back at home for Strinter really isn't enough for him to push out, to deny any bases. He knows he's got time to get up that perfect. unit composition so they can deal with that. He's relying exclusively on zerglings right now, but he's got corruptors on the way. He's got a hydralisk den and an infestor pit at home. Where is that hydralisk den? I saw it on the production tab. I know it exists. There it is. Over here by the third, which is a great play. Hydralisks are absolutely banging, especially whenever you get up those ultralisks. They work so well with those ultralisks, especially whenever they're coupled with some of those corruptors, so they can shut down the void race. That is a beautiful unit composition, and it's only going to benefit more from the upgrades that are already being worked on. 2-2 is going to be finishing in a very short period of time. Hydralisks are now being produced, so he's going to be able to lock down the drop play. It looks like some corruptors were being just a little bit frisky with the void race, and I think at least one of those corruptors are going to score a kill on that void ray. The second one's probably also going to go down, and the phoenixes have to retreat very, very quickly back at home. Back at home, Strinter has succeeded in taking up 2 of his Colossus. The extended thermal lance has now finished. We see a third one going to be finishing in a very short period of time. Templar Archive going to be coming out. It's going to be able to dump a buttload of that gas into Archons, as well as some storms, so they can shut down completely the zerglings that we can see are kind of flooding around and being frisky on the field. And 21 of them out there. 10 corruptors, though, are flying out, trying to score an extra kill, maybe on the mothership core, maybe on those Colossus. However, I don't think there's enough corruptors to actually push in there and cost-effectively exchange blows with the plethora of stalkers that are kind of underfoot. The fourth has been sneakily secured in the bottom corner, and it looks like it's fully saturated just for gas. Another base, I don't even know what number we're on now, probably 5. Is out. Oh, great play here by Starbuck, seeing these zealots, and it looks like these zealots were moving off down to the bottom right hand side. I do not believe it's because a base is known. It is not. Base is not known about that area. This is just Strinter being very clever, realizing that it's probably something that he's going to have to deal with eventually, and just really great positioning, lucky positioning of his corruptors to see that the zealots were indeed on their way down there just to check for a hidden expansion. And it looks like, fortunately for Starbuck, he had enough hydralisks on the field to deal with that zealot run by and also stop them before they actually arrive to scout out the creep. So that base is actually going to remain rather protected by its anonymity for the time being. However, it looks like Strinter is quickly approaching that 200 supply mark. He doesn't have any void rays mixed in with his composition, but the sheer number of Colossus and Stalkers should be enough to deal some massive damage. They are waiting, though, and oh no, the Ultralisks are on the production. There's no Ultralisks to deny. If that army pushed in from Strinter right now, he could have crushed this whole base before those Ultralisks got on the field. But now he's waited. He's waited so long. And the Ultralisks are going to be finishing in a very short period of time. And once those Ultralisks are done, this is going to be terrible. This is going to be a terrible engagement for Strinter. He needs to push in. I think the time is gone, actually. I think the window was so short for him to actually push in there and be cost effective. And unfortunately, now that more Ultralisks have been added into this mix, now that the plating is almost done, these Ultralisks are going to be pushing in on top of creep, pushing on top of those Archons. You can just see how quickly they melt away from those Ultralisks when supported by those Hydralisks. Remember, the Hydralisks do not have anything but the +1. No, +1 hasn't even been started on those Hydralisks, but +3 armor is almost done. And so is the +3 weapons, those Ultralisks being incredibly cost effective, melting away those Archons. However, on the back of it, so many Stalkers are just doing extra damage to the armor of those Ultralisks, and it looks like it's going to be enough to melt away all those Ultralisks. But 5 more Ultras on the production tab. The majority of the Hydralisks have been crushed. I think Strinter's going to succeed in taking out this Nexus, but with 8 more Ultralisks on the production tab, and with I don't know how many of these eggs are those Ultralisks, only 1 or 2, but the rest of them are going to be coming from the north side. That sandwich attack is going to hit at the exact same time. That hatchery does go down. A swing attack from Zerglings on the left side to succeed and take down one of the Colossus, but so many Ultralisks getting a great surround, and it looks like the resources lost tab has begun to stabilize. Remember how incredibly one-sided it was a short period of time ago? All 4 of the Colossus have fallen during that battle, and remember that Strinter has so many different bases. He can re-macro incredibly fast. 75 harvesters for Strinter. What? Starbuck is who I was talking about. I was saying Starbuck was the one with the banging economy, but no, Strinter also has a crazy economy, eh? 75 harvesters. Oh my goodness. Looks like that hatchery is going to go down. All the drones have successfully escaped, and it looks like a Zergling run by is going to go down in the top middle left side of the base. pretty much exclusively being used to mine some gas, and also as a backup expansion, but at the same time the Ultralisks are making their presence known down at the third. However, Photon Overcharge will successfully repel them, and the Nexus succeeds in staying up thanks to some plucky photon cannons as well as a ballsy Zealot with just 24 hit points left. The Zealots, however, have actually done their job down on the bottom right-hand side. Some Infestors are got to be careful not to be picked off by those Zealots, but both people's armies are pretty much depleted at this time. Don't have any Corruptors to protect Starbuck by way of air, but we don't see anything being produced from that Stargate back at home. It's totally silent, relying mostly on Archons right now to perform the beef. But we do have a couple of Void Rays out on the field. I just missed them. I just wasn't paying attention. And those Void Rays are going to be doing a ridiculous amount of damage. They just have to be careful of those Hydralisks, but the Ultralisks are going to be so far in front of those Hydralisks, the Void Ray should be able to target them down with relative ease. 3 Corruptors on the production team, but most likely they're going to be used by the Greater Spire to become Broodlords later on, rather than anti-air in conjunction with this ground force. What is this? Okay, Larva. I thought he was rebuilding this base. That would be bad. Dark Templars moving in, and we don't have any detection at all. Is there an Overseer on the field? I don't think there is. Is there? Oh, there is one. It's probably with this main force that's moving down there. But will it be in time to save that hatchery? I don't think it will. Just 153. Oh, goodness, it goes down just seconds before actually being targeted down by those Hydralisks. And that is a massive blow to Starbucks, because he's now gone from 4 or 5 bases down to 2.5, something like that. His third and fourth are both mining clearly, but with this hatchery, or the natural and the third are both mining. Natural almost completely mined out. However, it's still saturated. Hatchery being reconstructed at the fourth. This also fourth or fifth or whatever number you want to give it is being constructed and is going to be protected by the majority of the force. But really, I think Starbuck is reeling right now. He's being hit with so much harassment, being hit with so many different fronts, that he's having a very hard time at defending himself. A small wing of Zealots are going to be drawing the main force away from that expansion in the top left-hand side. But what is this? So many Broodlords out on the field right now, and StrinterN's doing a great job of remacroing. Look at how much money he's just got, and he's already back to 192. He's almost at 200 over 200. He's working on shield upgrades already because he's got +3 weapons. I'd love to see the armor also being researched, but right now he's going to be pushing forward. He doesn't have enough Void Rays to deal exclusively with those Broodlords. He does have enough Stalkers and Archons, but he just needs to get underfoot, and if he does, he's got to be wary of those Ultralisks and the fungal growths from those Infestors. So very much cat and mouse game, going back and forth, getting the adrenal glands, so that once the inevitable purge of the majority of this army takes place, he's going to be able to remacro some very powerful Zerglings and do some run-bys of his own. And it looks like 2 more Stargates going down so that he can actually deal with those Broodlords, but the inevitable push is happening. That expansion has been taken in the 6 o'clock position, but it has not been saturated just yet, and it looks like those Broodlords are going to begin to shell down some Broodlings on this Nexus. Where is the main force? It's just to the south side of that expansion, but they really don't want to push forward, because if they get pushed forward, they're going to get just stuck. They're going to get stuck on Broodlings and then stuck on fungal growths. The Void Rays pushing forward, being very ballsy. Where are the Corruptors? Did he change every single one into Broodlords? He did. He doesn't have any Corruptors in this. He wishes he did, but he just doesn't have the supply for it. It looks like another bit of harassment from Zealots. It looks like they're going to clean up this hatchery, but a handful of roaches are also on their way down there. Oh man, they're being so coy. Neither player wants to get in there and actually do some damage, but now that he's up on the high ground, those Broodlords are having to push down onto the low ground, exposing themselves just a little bit to the Void Rays, but they in turn expose themselves to the fungal growths. This quick blink forward, really great fungal growth down on top of those Stalkers, allowing the majority of the force to retreat, and it looks like those Broodlords are going to be able to shell down, and more than half of those Stalkers are going to go down because of that. But speaking of going down, some more Dark Templars have succeeded in taking down one of the only mining bases left. The Naturals can be completely mined down. The Nexus at the third or fourth location has gone down, but StrinterN still has his at the third, and he succeeded in taking the fourth. He's just buying time right now as he picks apart his opponent's infrastructure. The Dark Templars are also succeeding in taking down one of the only mining bases left. Starbuck is left on just one base. Finally, he succeeded in baiting StrinterN into a straight-on engagement, and it looks like he's going to come out on top of this engagement. The Hydralisks and Broodlords just doing devastating damage, but on the back of this tells you the whole story. Look at that economy. Look at that economy. Striker is going to be able to re-macro so incredibly quickly, but Starbuck is doing so much damage right now. His Hydralisks especially being incredibly cost-effective. Now that the majority of the beefy units have gone down, he's succeeding to just constantly push forward and push forward and push forward. This is absolutely ridiculous. At the same time, the infrastructure back at home is still undergoing a major bit of onslaught, but you can see that the micro from Striker is being torn away from the units that are actually doing damage to the infrastructure back at home, and desperately trying to salvage the third, which is inevitably going to go down. It looks like just a handful of Hydralisks are left alive, but continually warping in stalker count after stalker count. Eventually these Hydralisks will go down, and actually I think this Nexus is going to stay up. However, 41 over 40 Harvesters, that was 75, so such a short period of time ago that last Ultralisk eventually goes down. It looks like the Infestors are eventually going to get picked apart. I wonder how many kills that Dark Templar had. Just the one. Just the one. Finally stabilized at 61 supply count to 110. Starbuck does have his base completely mining at the third. However, it's very, very weak, and even with the detection to detect those Dark Templars, they come in like assassins, just melt away that hatchery. It's going to get rebuilt pretty much instantly. However, the delay and making that so that it has to be long-distance scouting, at the same time, just a fully saturated base, pardon me, is going strong for Strider. He's going to have quite a lot of income. However, he's going to have to deal with a massive army of Ultralisks, pure Ultralisks, fully upgraded glory, is going to be moving in and having absolutely no problem, even against Archons. These Ultralisks are going to just chew them apart, and with that goes the last hope of Strinter. This unfortunately, this economic stronghold is also going to get melted away. It looks like the photon cannons are having excellent positioning, are going to be doing a ridiculous amount of damage, but what can you do against this number of Ultralisks? I mean, that's 8 Ultralisks, something like that, just shelling down so much damage on that Nexus. The hatchery is probably going to get rebuilt in just a couple of seconds. We see another one on the production tab, and I'm surprised that he pulled back without actually finishing the job on that Nexus, but really there's no immediate need for him to do that. I mean, he did quite a lot of damage. The Nexus over here has been rebuilt, but it's beginning to be mined out. This is so close. This is way too close for me to call. They're morphing into the Archons now that the Overseers arrived. Those DTs are not going to be able to harass the Ultralisks anymore. He's actually not lost a single Ultralisk just yet. Splinter finally losing that 27. Oh, it's so close. It is so close. But those Ultralisks are just too good. Now that the hatchery has been rebuilt, the economy is beginning to stabilize and swing back into the favor of Starbuck. Oh, poor Strinter. What a massive fight. I cannot believe how incredibly chaotic the harassment was. Strinter took out like 90 different bases. The resources lost tab is slightly in the favor of Strinter, but that's just because the killing blows of just massive fight against massive fight makes these numbers so astronomically large that he's only a couple of percentage points ahead rather than, 20,000. And you say 20,000, that's a lot, but it's not. Oh, man. Poor Strinter. What a game. It looks like they're both getting ready to tap out. I think Strinter realizes that he's lost just because his only mining base only has a single mineral field on it. If he had enough money, he's just 10 minerals short of reconstructing this base down here. But even if he did, he doesn't have any units that could deal with 7 Ultralisks and 7 Infestors that are out on the field right now. Man, that is brutal. I honestly don't know what I'd change either, because both players was doing the correct thing the entire time. I mean, Protoss was harassing, Zerg was just continually expanding. This is an incredible game. Just believe me that they tap out though, so I'm going to cut to this screen and I'm going to tell you that if you like this sort of thing, Team Echo is notorious for it. They're great players, and you can tell that this was just a fantastic game because even though Team Echo lost, they're still incredibly proud of it, and you should be. Hats off to Starbuck, hats off to Strinter, hats off to you for watching this game. If you want to watch other games like it, stop by this YouTube channel. Maybe you could subscribe. Maybe you could email them if you have some questions, or check out their website. It's all on the screen right now, so I'm not going to humor you and actually read it out loud. One way or another, I will see you guys later. I am Ibigandscary. Bye.